My name is Tobie Giddio, and I am an artist. I started out as a fashion illustrator. That came from always having, even as an in the early days, as a child, being obsessed with beauty, being obsessed with movies, fashion, all things beautiful and creative. And that, just from that beginning, that has evolved a lot over the years. When I was a child, I would get Vogue magazine. I would basically wait every month for that to come, and I would go through it, and I would study Richard Avedon photographs and all the greats at the time, Irving Penn, etc. And I really realized that that's what I wanted to be a part of as an adult. I wanted to just express beautiful women as my life's work. And so I would, as a child, copy those photographs with like a pencil in the basement. And it was like I was self-training at that point, but I definitely knew that I needed to learn how to draw properly. So that's how I ended up at FIT. And I went to Fashion Institute of Technology and studied fashion illustration from many teachers who really taught the old school structure of drawing the figure from life. When I say draw from life, I mean there's a model, there's we would make these beautiful setups. We would have music playing very loud. So I started there, and I would draw a woman from top to bottom over and over and over. So that gave me a great education in terms of anatomy and how to draw spontaneously, how to draw without self-consciousness. It's kind of like a singer. It's like the mind has to completely leave, and you are responding to what's in front of you. So I learned that there. And my dream when I was in high school was to illustrate the advertisements for Bergdorf Goodman in New York. Because at the time when I was a child and a teenager, all those department stores used illustration for their advertisements. So upon graduation, about a year after, I kept going and bringing them my drawings, and eventually I got that account. So that was the beginning of that entered me into the beauty industry. I was doing cosmetics and working for magazines, and I was drawing fashion figures. That is now 30-something years ago, and I have gone through a kind of a metamorphosis where I still, that fashion figure that started out quite literal, showing clothes, buttons, sleeves, where everything, that skill I got in school. So I was able to, use illustration to sell things and to create an elevated, beautiful woman. So that has, like I said, has evolved, it has changed. I started to abstract the figure more and more. And I've kind of now have very much transitioned into a full-time fine artist. I still love to draw fashion and the couture, and I do that often for people like Show Studio and situations that give me the total freedom to see fashion and couture through the eye of a fine artist. So it's a big range of ways of working. And that's kind of where it is at this point. So I came to New York in 1983, and it was an incredible time in New York City. New York was still incredibly diverse. An artist could move to New York City at that time still and find an affordable place to live, and constantly discovering different worlds, different parts of the underground, the fashion world, the music world, the fine art world. And in that particular time in the 80s, it was creatively abundant. It was an incredible time to be here. And I consider that being in New York, as much the city being as much of my education as my school. Most of the music I was listening to informed my art. And it's always been that way. It's still that way. If you ask me what's the most important thing or the thing that I most reference, it's the music that I listen to. I was the last fashion illustrator to illustrate the advertisements in the New York Times ever. Like, that was the end of it. That was probably, in the late 80s. And Stephen Meisel blew up. Stephen Meisel was a fashion photographer. And I mean, in my opinion, there's many great ones. But at that time, in the early 90s, it basically just wiped out any use of fashion illustration to sell for retail environments and whatnot. So that bottomed out completely. It's never going away. It's not gone away. It's just that it's used differently. People drawing fashion, it's usually to elevate a brand in some way, to add something very special. There's something so special about drawing. It will never go away. It is irreplaceable. There's incredible, great fashion photography. We have an abundance of incredible fashion photographers. Their work will always be relevant. Fashion drawing will always be relevant. It's used differently now. I think growing up where I grew up was a little alienating and isolating because I didn't really know anyone who was interested in the things I was interested in. And so I created a world inside my bedroom, headphones. I mean, I lived I would have all kinds of sketchbooks and get my books and my magazines. And I remember, ordering books from Rizzoli bookstore, which was, the absolute best art bookstore anywhere. And, we didn't have the internet. This is pre-internet. So anything that you were interested in, it was not so easy to get the material and now I can look at, if I want to look at the entire couture from Paris, I can watch it in real time. I mean, I can't even imagine what that must be like for kids and how great it is that whatever they were passionate about, they can just look it up. Kids have access to everything and anything that they are passionate about. And that is, it's just indescribable how great that is. It kind of really offers kids to be who they are, no matter what their situation is, and to dive into it. It's that's the key to everything, is to just dive into it and trust what you love. My process when I'm working, when I'm drawing, is completely intuitive. And unless I have an assignment, I sit down to work, and it's almost it's not almost, it is a meditation process. I never erase anything. That's one thing I got out of school that I think I could kiss my teacher's feet for. She'd never let us bring, my main teacher, Barbara Perlman, never let me bring an eraser to class. And throwing that out gave me confidence. So it gives you the confidence to never second guess, to sit around and, put a line down and do something and then go, oh, is that good? Is that bad? Do I like this? Do I not? Is this the greatest thing ever? It does, that conversation is the worst enemy to making art. Vitality is in being in alignment with your purpose in life. And the most important thing for any kid, any adult, anybody, is to somehow go inside and figure it out. What is my purpose? We all have one. There's nobody here who doesn't have one. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be really, really hard at some point. At many points, it's hard. And then then there's this huge fulfillment that comes from having gone through whatever you had to go through, deal with what, other people have to say, good or bad. It's all, it's not really not compromising, because there's, in collaboration with others, there's always going to be compromise. But I enjoy that. I enjoy what happens when an art director or a curator or somebody has input and what we come up with. It's always something I never would have come up with. I love that. But compromising my integrity, my artistic integrity, I don't even think I'm capable of doing it. It's not a habit. That it really comes down to habits. That is not a habit for me. Rituals and habits, I think, are one of the most important things for anybody, artist or not. What you think about, what you read, what you watch, it all is constantly coming into, it's like what you allow and what is important. It's in our power, in our control. There's nothing more important than that question. What do I do? What is my purpose? So sometimes it takes a lot of digging, and sometimes it's obvious. I was a lucky kid, even though I was very unhappy, honestly, as a kid, as a teenager. I was I felt very out of my element. And I'm so grateful to that 15, 16-year-old kid who just was going to figure it out, just no matter what. And I always tell kids the same thing, is just really allow for your obsessions, no matter what anybody thinks. Your obsessions and the things that you love, the music you love, the things that you want to look at, that's your doorway. Those are your clues. That's your crumbs to get to where you want to go. So whatever it is you're looking at and interested in, keep just more of it. Just get more of it. And eventually it will just be I am this. I am this. I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. The hardest part of that is the people around you. What parents want you to do, who you want, all the expectations of others are, oftentimes the end of the soul's journey. So that's the tricky part, is to really trust yourself and what you love, to trust the crumbs, to trust the things that you find on the path that say, me, look at me, I like this, I like this. Even if it's not what you ultimately end up doing, it's going to lead you there. It's kind of we all get this. We all get this. There's nobody that has no talent and no use. There's no person. So it's kind of I like this. one of the best techniques of journal writing is almost like a self-interview. Like, it's really fun to sometimes just ask yourself a question and then answer it. And they can be really basic questions. And you let yourself answer it. No one's going to read this. No one's going to see this. No one ever, ever, ever. So it you know, even as simple as, who are you? Like, I mean, you could go there. Who are you? And then, you know, you start writing. And what do you want to do with your life? You know, those are very broad, huge questions. But whatever you ask yourself, the answer, if you allow yourself to just write, things will come out of you. There will be some clues in there. It might not all be brilliant or anything, but there's clues. We're always being vigilant for clues to what's the next right thing to do. You know, who am I? Who am I changes drastically. I mean, 10 minutes ago, I'm not the same person. But self-inquiry and contemplation are amazing tools. And they're just for you. You don't have to share that with anybody. I think the greatest challenge that I've faced is not different from probably everybody else, is self-doubt. And even I'd go as far to say self-hatred. Those two things, I mean, that sounds quite intense, but at the same time, there's nobody that I've ever met that hasn't had to face that part of themselves. And it comes in the form of self-doubt. But the difference is with maturity is that I'm aware when I'm in that space. I'm aware when I'm in that self-doubt. Am I doing the right thing? What am I supposed to be doing? That has always, being an artist, you walk into the studio and there is no boss, there is nobody telling you what to do, there's nobody anywhere that is kind of like, you know, your assignment for today is this, and I want this by the end of the day. There isn't any of that. So the challenge is, you know, sometimes there's a lot of self-doubt there and saying, and that self-doubt to me always comes in the form of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. And the truth of the matter is I do know what I'm doing and I do know what to do, but if I can move past that, then it will become obvious. As someone who is completely self-motivated, that is a challenge that in time, gets easier and better. And you realize that I realize that I am built for that. I can handle the ups and downs, the financial ups and downs, the inspiration ups and downs. It's kind of like the challenge is riding the waves and being able to come back and be resilient after a huge fall and still find the part of the self that knows what to do and knows what the next right thing is. My legacy, I hope, is about beauty, refinement, and something that endures. I want all my work that I make to have the quality of endurance. Doesn't matter what time none of us are going to be here in 100 years. None of us, this is all gone. It's that I want the work to hold its value in some way. And when I say value, I don't mean money, and it does not necessarily, it's just like, it's valuable. I want everything to have value and integrity and beauty and whoever, at whatever point in time someone picks something up, they feel something, or they experience like a tremendous amount of beauty from it, and understand the value of that. I am Tobie Giddio, and I am an artist.